Welcome to this installment of Creative Cabin Fever. On today's installment, I have the great honour of speaking to Emily, who was actually the last performance I got to see before lockdown happened. The universe would have it that I would be sent here to buy this, to lose myself in it during lockdown and be completely delighted with life. They are selling these on their website and I cannot urge you enough to buy it because it's really the only medium in which you should listen to this album start to finish exactly as it's meant, not on randomize or shuttles on Spotify. It needs to be heard as a body of work that it is, and it's 4 parts and it's conceptual art. Now, what I will say is they have these beautiful t-shirts and I love them. However, they're all in men's size shapes. And that is something that irks me as a female who enjoys music. Because as one of the lyrics does say, why do all the songs I listen to remind me of bad men? And I do not want to wear t-shirts that look like they came off some fella's bedroom floor.
That is a very reasonable point, and my only rebuttal to that is that whenever I order like band merch, I always get the men's merch, and I always like cut the sleeves off, and then I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. So I'm going to take that on board and see what I can do about getting some female sizes t-shirts and things like that. It's just like a real oversight of like, especially like me and Neve, our drummer. We just Neve loves our t-shirts. She's constantly in our band merch, and it's very, very funny. But just because neither of us would ever wear them, like does not mean that there's people who would love that. So I will look into it for you.
Thank you. All the bands are doing it though. Like this is Saint Agnes. They're this really cool UK band I love. And I had to cut that up too. And pretty much all my t-shirts, bar 3 bands, had girl sizes.
Yeah, I think, like it's just a proper oversight of, you either assume people want to wear them like cool t-shirt or like to bed, and like, actually they can be quite fashionable. So we're missing a whole demographic here. So thank you for pointing it out.
I want to be your billboard. Yeah. I want to wear you tight-fitting, pretty, with everyone just staring at your logo.
Yeah, okay, I will. And in terms of those t-shirts that we have on the website, that's an Irish company called Brick Bear Clothing. And we've worked with them before, but they're a great Irish company, an independent clothing company. And I'm sure they would also love to do something feminine for us too. So yeah, we'll chat. We'll look into it.
No, and they are beautiful and they're embroidered, and I think that's part of why I didn't want to cut them up, because they just, they're pretty. I don't want to be.
Yeah, so maybe we should get like a pretty kind of like fitted form one. Yeah, I've clocked it. I'm on. Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
But let's talk about this and the beauty of being able to watch it all unfold as a one piece, as a gig, which was just phenomenal to me. Like it was just, it's beautiful. Like.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Also, yeah, who knew it would be it was the last time we were all together as a band. Last time we were all together with people who listened to us and who for that show. But yeah, like that was, we all kind of afterwards, we felt like it was like our best show that we've ever really had, because it was playing it start to finish. We felt totally involved and embodied, and we were so prepared that we weren't even like, even if you were stumbling over something, your hands knew. Like there was just such a muscle memory to it that there was no second guessing at all. And so it was a really beautiful evening, and it was very, very special for us, like very special and emotional night. So yeah, it's like, thanks for coming. And hopefully we'll get to do it again.
No, you definitely will. I'm just preparing everyone for how they need to go when you start doing it again.
Yeah, that'd be cool if people, when we're ready and when people are ready, that we'll hopefully do that kind of show again, like where we play it start to finish and bring people on that kind of that journey with us, because it really felt like the crowd were involved with it, like, as well, which was, we were so nervous on that end, because when you plan to take people on that journey, you're not sure if they're going to be as invested, or if they'll get it. And it did feel like we were all very connected during it, so it was cool.
Yeah, no, it was really, really cool. And funny anecdote. I go up to Dublin, or used to, every 5 weeks to go to a gig that I want to enjoy. So you were the pick of that one. And I went with a friend of mine. And anytime I go to Dublin, I ask whoever I'm staying with to buy me donuts, because I just really love donuts. So we were coming into the gig, and my friend got stopped, and they asked him what was in his bag, and he was like, donuts. And the security guard was like, can't bring donuts in here. And I was like about to have a fit, because all I wanted was my donuts. Like,
Yeah.
so one of your bass players snuck the donuts in for us.
Yes, go. Very good. I'm delighted to hear that. That's what a Vernon Jane show is all about.
Thank you for saving my donuts.
Yeah, and it's funny you say one of our bass players, because like Cahill was deafened for our bass player Ricky, and Cahill's like, he's family, like he's one of my best friends. So Ricky, our bass player, he was going traveling for a while, and it was so funny when he was talking about doing it. He was just like, but Cahill. And I was like, you can't just assume, because Cahill's like one of my best mates, and he's very good at bass, that I want him to play bass. But like, obviously I did, and it was really, that whole night as well, Cahill played. That was his last show with us, and then Ricky came up for the last bit, so it was like a changing of the guards. Yeah, because as a band we're very familial, and Cahill will always and forever be part of, like, he's like a member of Vernon Jane forever. So yeah, like, I'm very glad that one of them snuck it in. And they look similar, so you're like, a tall, kind of hairy guy, help me.
I think it was the second one.
Yeah, it could have been Ricky. Like, either one would do that for you. So that's the whole Vernon Jane buzz. Either bass player would sneak in things they shouldn't to shows.
But something as innocent as donuts, Emily, I didn't really think would have to be snuck in anywhere.
You just never know what you're going to encounter, like, I am sure that they have done worse things than sneak donuts into shows. No offense to the guys. We all have.
So obviously you guys are together almost a decade, like 7 years is, it's the bones of a decade.
Yeah.
How does it feel to finally be recognized as a band and finally be in motion, and everything just kind of come to a halting stop? Like,
it's a very interesting thing, because our guitar player Joe, and Neve, our drummer, and Sean, our saxophone player, we actually have our 10-year anniversary as friends coming up in September, and we all started in college together in Ballyfermot, and it's coming up to 10 years of just friendship and playing. Like, we've all played in loads of different projects together, and I think with Vernon Jane in particular, like, it came from a place of all of us just being really close and getting to know each other, and at a really formative part of your life, where you're all kind of young and figuring out your buzz and what you like and what you want to create. And now that, like, we've figured that out, I don't think we were ever going to be a band that, we were never going to just get it straight away, because there was such a trust that needed to be there to create what we're creating, and there had to be such a safe place to, like, feel like we could talk about things and really openly talk about our lives and our experiences. That trust just took us time, and now that we have an album out that really encapsulates that safe place for us, it's a real, I'm really proud of that, and I think that it just took us time, and some bands it takes time, and sometimes that inherent trust is just there, but I'm really proud of it, and I want people now with the album to feel like that's their safe place, because it's our safe place, and that's just, like all good things and safe things, it took a lot of trust between us. So I feel like for it to stop, it didn't really stop, because we were never kind of in this to, I guess, get recognition, or because, like, I remember when we released Fuck Me, I remember we talked about, should we do a radio version where it's censored, and all of us being like, do you know what, we'll just put a video up on YouTube because we kind of need to say fuck in this song, and we need to say these things, and I don't want to kind of censor it in that way. And some of our work you can, but there's certain statements that we want to make, and so we're never kind of looking for that aspect of things. And now with this album, that's slowly creeping in, and people are kind of getting it, and taking the chance with us, and it's really great. And I think the way that I express the whole thing is that we're just on pause. The whole world is kind of currently on pause, and everything we were planning and aiming towards is all still in motion, and we have to kind of trust that, because there is a lot of pressure on artists right now to figure it out. But we kind of know what we were about, and we had figured that aspect out, and we're really proud of what we put out. So we just can't wait to play it and do all the things that were attached to it, and put out more music, and all of that stuff is still really possible. So yeah, just pause, strange not seeing each other. That's the biggest the hardest part of it all being put on hold, was after a gig that was so big for us and releasing the album, we haven't seen each other. So you just, lots of great Zoom calls and chats and that kind of thing. But we've been talking a lot about when we're all in the same room together. It's going to be really, really great. Like, just, there's lots of things to talk about and grieve about and be happy about, and that's going to be amazing. So yeah, not halt, just pause.
And that's a beautiful approach to it. You're probably right to go about it that way, because everyone is on a break. So maybe it is nice to just take time. A lot of artists are reporting kind of differences in the way they pursue creativity, or how creativity is now, they're discovering new things about themselves. Like, how does that affect you personally, Emily?
I think it's really interesting because my creative process, I've kind of been on that journey for a long time, and I'd be quite introverted. So I've taken steps out of things, sometimes of my own volition, sometimes of my brain's volition, where it's like, do you know what, Emily, you're going to clock out for a few months, and you're going to be obsessed with this idea for a few months. And I think I've had to kind of put a lot of work into my mental health, and how my creativity is affected by that, and how closely linked those two things are for me. So during this time, I write very thematically and very visually. So to stop my mind from like coming at me with a million different things at once, I separate our work into teams. And I work primarily that way. So I could be writing something, and I'm like, I know that that's in that team and that branch of work that I'm working on. So currently I'm working on 3 different bodies of work, and there's distinct themes that when I write something, it might take me, I'll look back a month later and go, I know that that fits in there. So hindsight is a really good tool for Vernon Jane stuff, because I write something and I don't know, and then 6 months down the line I'm like, that's what that one was about. Great stuff. So my creativity during this time, I have approached it the same way as I always do, in that, like, it has to be a healthy space. I don't want to put myself under pressure to create, because that can be really detrimental and a dangerous headspace to be in for someone, and especially when you're working on work that is cathartic. It's not a great thing to put that pressure on yourself, because if you're not ready to work on a particular song, shelf it and circle back. And I think I've gotten really back into visual outlets during this time. So I've had a bit more time in my home life that I'm drawing, and now associating kind of drawing to our work. So those two kind of creative outlets have always been in my life. And I think just because the world situation has changed doesn't mean our approach to creativity should have changed. And there should be no more pressure on people to be creative and put things out, because it's challenging even just waking up and being present right now. So I always take the approach where it's like day by day, and if not day by day, if you can't do that, moment by moment. Can't do moment by moment, let's take it down even to 10 seconds to 10 seconds, because yeah, like putting yourself, trying to find that creative space all the time, it's so hard. So whatever works for you, and I've kind of found my flow, but again, that took years for me to kind of understand how my brain works and what's good and my limits, So yeah, it hasn't changed, really, because yes, life has changed around me, but my brain unfortunately did not. so so I still have to do the same kind of things to look after that side of things. Yeah.
Just as well, because if it wasn't for that brain, this wouldn't exist in its four perfect parts, thematically exactly the way your brain process works, and it would just not be as raw and unfiltered and perfect and appealing to every single broken-hearted person out there in lockdown right now.
Well, thanks so much. I remember talking to our bass player before he left on his travels, and he's like, "Are you going to be all right?" And I was like, "I'll be as all right as I always am." Sometimes you want to teleport into a more quiet brain, but finding ways to kind of manage your own thought processes and your own kind of creativity and mental health. Once you start working on that for yourself, it can be a cathartic thing, and it can help you. So yeah, thank you for the kind words about the album. It's
cool. So I'm just curious, obviously, because it's a personal piece, but it's also kind of a broader piece. It resonates with a lot of people. How does it feel as you said, an introvert and a person maybe who's still learning to find their voice and who's finally pushing themselves a little bit extra, to have so many people grasp onto your words, put their own meaning behind it, and give it so much extra power that you didn't even realize, because you were just doing your thing, being cathartic and shit, and all of a sudden there's all these people going, that song is about so and so, I feel it in my soul.
It's very interesting, because I think you kind of have to give it the benefit of the doubt of like, people are never going to know what this stuff is about unless they specifically ask me about my experiences or what I feel or why I wrote certain things. And you kind of, when you're working on something like this, your first automatic thought is like, are people going to judge me? Is this too far? Is the language I'm using okay? Like, am I hitting on topics that are going to upset people? Like, it's very kind of strange to open yourself up for that kind of attack, I guess. And it's not an attack, because I guess for me, after I released the album, I was like, there's a relief, because it's not just my feelings anymore. It's not just this like secret thing that I'm harboring, because for a long time, a lot of the emotions in the album were secret and were private and were eating away at my soul. And it's definitely a really nice feeling to let people take what they need from it, because that's the whole purpose of it. Whatever you need from this album, please take. Whatever you need from a song, take. Attach a person to a song if it makes you feel better. Yeah, so I guess I had to let go of it, and I had to let go. I guess the hardest part of all of it was the acknowledgement that people are going to associate it with me. People are in some way going to, I had to be honest and say, yeah, I've seen things, I've experienced things, and yeah, like, that ownership over more difficult aspects of your life is never easy, but it's also the first step to dealing with those feelings, I think, in my opinion.
I would be of a similar opinion to you. Like, I love my meditation, I love my yoga, but if it isn't for the hard work and the pain and the actual growth, like, I'm at nothing. I'm just deluding myself into thinking everything is okay.
Yeah, it's important, I think, to say things out loud, and unfortunately I would not be the best talker. So finding words in terms of just talking about experiences is something I have always hit a massive wall with. But when you're in the space in Vernon Jane where everything's cranked to 11, everybody trusts each other, nobody's saying, why are you screaming fuck? Nobody's calling you out on anything. that became this really fucking empowering and safe and badass place that let me, and continues to let me, like, deal with my shit and helps other members deal with their shit and helps people who come to our shows. And that's after the whole journey of like 7 years together, that's the purpose. Feel what you gotta feel and make no apologies for it, pretty much.
Yeah, no, be and take up space. It's really hard, especially for a woman, to be and take up space. It's all well and good for men to say whatever they want, but God forbid we should, so thank you.
It's a very interesting process of right now, because it's a very feminized piece of work, and I would be on that journey myself. Like, I'd be quite a fluid person, and I believe in kind of feminine energy and masculine energy. And I think what is happening with this album is that it's both. It's the aggression that females are not supposed to feel, or people with that feminine touch to them, that, like, we're not supposed to be aggressive, we're not supposed to curse, we're not supposed to talk about sexuality, we're not supposed to talk about violence, we're not supposed to talk about like most things. We're not like, I guess I've thought an awful lot about this, and definitely in ways that the album has been perceived, or our work has been perceived, but we are inherently, as females, under a patriarchal kind of like society that makes us, I felt guilty, I felt ashamed of our songs, I felt like I shouldn't say these things. And in writing and putting this album out, it became very apparent that I have to say these things, because for my own mental health, but for other women and for other people who do not like fit in one or the other, that, like, it's very important to say these things out loud, and to say it's okay to be feminine and to be aggressive, and it's okay to be masculine and be gentle. Because, for example, like, a lot of our work is quite dynamic, so I can be super, like, in your face and can be really loud, and then it drops down to a very sensitive place. We all have that like in us, regardless of our gender or our feminine or masculine energy. We all have that divide in us, and there's strength in both. So that took me a very long time to come to terms with, and it took me a very long time to find that place as someone in a woman's body, to find that place of fluidity and be like, some days I might want to wear the man's band t-shirt, and some days I might want to wear the woman's band t-shirt, and those two sides deserve a voice and deserve a platform. And for every woman or feminine person that say we need that more than ever. So I've started to take a lot more ownership over that, because unfortunately the patriarchy isn't going anywhere, and we are always going to be subconsciously impacted by that. Like, our choices are so subconsciously impacted by that the awareness of that is really important, where women say, actually, what do I want? Not what is expected. What do I want? It's not about what's expected. And if I want to be sexy, if I want to shout cunt, and if I want to take ownership back over that word, and I want to take ownership back over the word bitch and fuck, because those words have been used derogatorily towards me, I want to do that. And I feel like that's really important right now. Sorry, that's a big rant about, like...
No, that was the most perfect rant ever. I just kept wanting to jump in there because I have so much to say too, but from like similar but different. Like, so where I'm at on that one is, you're right, we have to start breaking our conditioning, and it's super hard to do. We're all constantly learning that it's okay to take up space, and some of us are doing better jobs than others. So it does take people giving voice to stuff like that. There is another band that really resonated strongly with me at the moment called Blackbird and Crow. Have you ever heard of them?
No, but I'll check them out for sure.
But they sing about the witch trials in a modern format. So they sing about how women were persecuted for so long. They do a spoken word piece called The Harlot on Holly Hill, and it's one of the most deeply impacting songs to me in this whole lockdown, as well as your album, but they'd be on similar kind of aspects. Like it's all about that duality and that fight and that constant, like women seem to consider men's feelings, or like I spend a lot of my time personally, like I had a big event due in March that had to be cancelled called Steak and DJ Day, and it was put in place to celebrate men, because for me personally, I do believe that men are forgotten a lot. That's why the suicide rates are so high. I also believe that men don't have the family rights that they ultimately deserve, because just because you're a man does not mean you don't have a right to your kid, right? Children are not pawns, they are people. Okay, so I fight the good fight, but then the more I think about it, the more I'm like, a man's never going to consider what it's like for me to take up space as a woman, and that's because they don't have to, right? So they just are, and they don't understand that we actually have to force a little bit harder to be, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that like I find really one of my favorite things about the band I'm in is that we have men and women, and we have a fluidity to every member, where there's a lot of conversations we have about this, like me and Neve, our drummer, will be two very kind of like, when it comes to music, we're very like, hey, like, let's fucking go. Like, we know, we accepted it, and I don't want to speak just for Neve, because her experiences are her experiences. And like from my end, like watching her and myself, like we've always had to give maybe 120%, where the lads might only have to give 80, 80 to 100, and I'm not taking away at all. It's just we have to know our shit so inherently to be able to be recognized at the same level. We have to work that little bit harder just to get the same recognition. And when that for me is just like, challenge accepted, let's go, let me show you. And then in that, in terms of our band, there's such a mutual respect. Our gender has never come up in terms of our internal works. Outside of that, it's come up a little bit, but we are so firm in, it's like, we all deserve recognition. We all have shown up to every single jam. We've all worked so hard, and we all respect each other so much that we have zero tolerance on somebody looking at me and me differently or treating us differently. Like, I know any other band member would turn around, any male band member would turn around and just be like, actually, no, like, that's not acceptable. But I understand as well, and you mentioned male suicide rates. I fully understand that men are going to listen to this album and learn about the female experience, and also take, some men have experienced these things themselves but aren't as vocal, don't feel that they can be as sensitive or as vulnerable. So this album is for everyone who has ever experienced any of that kind of feeling. And I guess for the most part, in regards like male and female things in society, that like we need to help and educate one another, like, and there's such an open space for discussion. And like, especially within our band, like, I've had great conversations with male members where they would never have assumed my experience, they would never have known what had happened unless they ask. And I've had that happen where other members have said, have you experienced that? And been like, oh really? And then they clue in, and it's all about education. It's a really lovely thing when you have a group of people who make you feel positive about the next generation, where you go, I know that that's going to be a conversation for your family. I know that that's something that you now can talk about and have a discourse about, and that's really important. So in terms of like, I really feel like we represent like strong females and strong men, and to be a strong female or to be a strong man or to be a strong person is to understand that we all experience life through very different lenses, and that's like, as a people thing, we experience through different lenses. And it's important to every so often take a second and go, let me look through your lens, because even another woman may not feel the same as me, or may not have had the same experience, so may not find the same voice or power that I found. So I need to be aware that I might need to look through her lens and understand, okay, why isn't she doing that? Because X, Y, and Z for that person is not the same for me. So I think we all have to work on looking through each other's eyes. I think that's really important. But yeah, like I feel strongly about acceptance for just everyone, absolutely everyone. And, you know, we all experience um, things like in relationships as well. Like, yeah, so yeah, another rant
No
there.
two humans are alike. Like, no two people are going to have the same cognition or journey. That's why we're all here, to kind of live our own ones. But it's true, through discussion and talking with each other, we're actually able, if we're willing, to learn about other people's experiences and to hopefully grow. Because just because you didn't experience it doesn't mean it's not happening. I mean, we're seeing that right now, you know, worldwide, on a big, massive scale. We're learning on a constant, something that really we have no experience of personally.
Yeah,
And it's about growing within that, and beating it, and being better and making the world better.
and I think again it comes back to being a safe place, like being a safe place, especially like right now, like for people of color, to be a safe place for people, that they feel like you are not going to degrade or undermine their experience, because like you said, whether you like it or not, these things are real. And I think that's one of the most fundamental things, is that we need to educate ourselves, and we need to be that safe place, and to listen, and like understand that it's not our place to like understand that we can't understand that our what we can do is be here and support and be allies and lift people up and lift each other up. And it's heartbreaking. It's one of the most heartbreaking times, um like to that we've been in our generation exposed to. And like it's just it's not good enough. It's not good enough. The world is a very unjust place, and like, yeah, we need to do better, essentially. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do. And it's important. We're having a conversation right now, and that's beautiful. And we're both obviously open to a conversation, and everything you do is very open, and you're not allowing, but unfortunately for you, people will perceive whatever they want from this body of work in this moment in time now. So that's a hard thing to get used to, I'm sure. But we've talked about the benefits of being in a band. So we've talked about the pros. I'm really interested in the cons of a 9-piece band, right? Let's talk about the negatives.
It's gas because we've been doing it so for so long, and because we're actually like it's so familial, because we've just grown up together. Like, it's that kind of conversation you have with your siblings. We're like, oh, for fuck's sake, what are you doing? Like, if someone's late to practice, Neve Casey, more like Neve lately. I'm joking, she's gonna kill me. But like, if somebody is like, I don't, I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's perfect, because like everybody has good and bad days, but it's the pros outweigh the cons dramatically, because there's enough just, yeah, like we can say anything to each other. So if someone is like, and we've never really encountered someone being an asshole, but if someone's just pushing their luck and like being not learning the tunes, they're like not showing up, because you're so reliant on, especially like there's certain tunes that are really really difficult to play, like where you are playing something totally different to someone else, and you can't turn around to them and say, I know how you do that, because you're so focused on like what you're doing, that like everybody has to own their shit so much that if somebody's off one day, it can lead to like a bad practice, and then you're all kind of feeling shook. But I've been thinking about this loads. Like, we're all such anxious like Nellies. We're all so like, we're worried all the time that we're not like that we'll do a gig and something will go wrong, because with a lot of our songs, one domino needs to fall, and it just like, it's like, oh my god, we're all like going down with this shit. And yeah, like, so I guess the most important thing is trying to keep each other, keep a really positive energy with each other. And the only, like, even when a con does arrive, you just call each other out on it straight away. You just call each other bullshit. You're like, you were in a bad humor. or you were late today, and let's not do that anymore. And then like there's enough humor and fun and good-heartedness that we kind of power through. And like in terms of like there's a lot of us, but like in terms of our backing vocalists, I might do separate practice with the girls, and then they'll come into like one or two big band ones. So again, constantly thinking in different facets of things and bringing it all together. And like our brass guys, like they're, especially with the album, they've been really like present. So everybody has their place with us, and yeah, like it never feels like there's nine of us ever. Like and it's so funny because I think we have like one proper just photo of all nine of us. Like it never feels like there's nine. And then when people say it, you're like, oh yeah, Jesus, there's nine. That's actually a lot, isn't it? Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, we do all right. Like I love everyone so much, and regardless of anything, we're friends first, you know, and we're in each other's lives first and foremost. So yeah, like we just happen to be able to make this together, and we're all on the same page with it. So we're pretty lucky, like, definitely.
Yeah, no, and again, smashing job. I really, really love it. Fogler tells everyone they should buy it. So like, he's really cute. Listen to Fogler. Before I stop recording, Emily, is there anything you'd like to add to the interview?
No, not really. Not really. We're kind of just working away, and when gigs are back, we had a few tours that were postponed. So we're really, really looking forward to getting back and doing those shows, because they're just again all on pause, and we're working on getting back into the studio at the end of the year as well. So that would be amazing if that happens, and that's kind of all been funded by the sales of The Ritual of Lovemaking. So that's been incredible. That's been really overwhelming. Like that's been like a very overwhelming part of all this, is that, you know, people buying it and interacting with it and hearing people's feedback has really helped my personal and our, as a band, are keeping our spirits kind of uplifted. So like the people who are reaching out, like, keep doing it, keep talking to us. It's amazing, and we really, really appreciate it. So you're helping make a difficult time right now feel like there's hope, you know. And I do believe that it's really important for people to help each other, help minority groups at the moment in as much of a way that you can. So be that like signing a petition, like going online, looking at the Black Lives Matter like website, educating yourself on these issues, and definitely see it as a global problem. Don't see it as, oh, it's happening over there. And I do think, like, find what you can do, even if it is the smallest thing, because we're all definitely in very uncertain times, and it can be really hard on your mental health. Do even the smallest thing can be a ripple effect. So I think it is important to talk about it, have discussions and have discourse about it, and try and look after each other and your mental health as best as possible right now, because it's a really strange and tough world right now. So yeah, look after each other and reach out to each other and spread love, and buy our album. Yeah.
That was beautiful. I agree. I think one of the most important things we can do actually is educate ourselves and have open conversations, because the more open the conversations and the more open to the fact that we absolutely know nothing, we are constantly growing and learning. And if we're not, we'd be dead. So just be open to that fact. Be open that you've been wrong in the past, but be open to the fact that you can improve always and will improve always.
Yeah, and as uncomfortable like as it is, because it's going to feel uncomfortable to say things, and it even feels strange bringing it up right now, but it also feels strange sitting here and not acknowledging it. So I think as uncomfortable as you feel, like, you will never understand the reality of how uncomfortable it is for other people. So yeah, like, just talk about it as best you can, and yeah, that's my thoughts on it. And yeah, like, we'll continue to kind of start back, like, trying to put some music into the world again, and spread creativity and love again, because that's important. You know, people need music. Yeah.
Actually, that's a question I didn't ask you. What are your current lockdown jams? What have you been listening to? Who should
Wow.
I be listening to? I usually always ask that one. And I forgot to ask you what the first song you fell in love with, because we got so wrapped up in the fucking conversation there. Let's go. First song you fell in love with, Emily.
I like, that's such a strange one. I like, I'm not particularly sure, because I fell in love, like the first band I felt like, the first like thing that I was like, music is amazing, was Tool. Were like the first, like, oh my god, like what the heck is this? And like then Jeff Buckley. So those two together, like they were my first loves, always will be. In terms of song, I definitely, I fall in and out of love with songs all the time, like constantly. So it's easier for me to have like a relationship with a band than with an individual. I don't know what that says about me. But
I
then
get it.
yeah, like with what I'm listening to now, there's I think they're UK, Brockhampton. They're a very cool act at the moment. I'm like, oh god, my mind's gone blank. I always listen to kind of my classics. Like, I love listening to Whitney Houston. I really love listening to Whitney Houston. Listen to Slipknot at the moment. My playlist is quite varied. MF Doom is always on rotation for me. Freddie Gibbs has a new album out, which is fantastic. Yeah, so they're kind of always my go-tos. There's a great artist, and I always circle back. A guy called Saba has an album called Care for Me, and I would really, really recommend listening to that album if you like our album, because it's a very honest expression of his relationships and his journey in life, and he's just an amazing rapper. So yeah, they're my jams at the moment.
Well, thank you very much, Emily. I'm going to stop recording and we'll go back to chat. Say goodbye.
Bye bye.